I am a chef. I am a first-time executive chef that moved to Savannah, Georgia to become partners in a restaurant located in a renovated Greyhound bus station. We opened in December 2014, and I'm partners with Jono Morisano and Carol Saudai. Savannah is home of 150,000 locals, SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, a booming medical community, Gulfstream, 2 military bases, and an annual influx of tourists, 13 million a year. Moving to a new city to open a restaurant or opening any food business is like having a child. And moving to do this is like being a single mother. I'm not a mother, but I imagine it's like having this idea growing and living inside of you. And once it's born, you're not sure if you recognize it. You're no longer in control of it. You're exhausted because it needs your undivided attention. It's either hungry or dirty, and you're tired. You spend almost all of your time with your new baby. I ate, studied, drank, hung out, and I've slept at the restaurant. All of us involved tend to form these special bonds that feel like family. And when you're in this one building, living and working, you either hate each other, or you love each other, or you can't wait to rip each other's clothes off. There's a lot of fraternizing in the restaurant industry. These are all types of pressures that exposes one true self. Living in that truth is what makes this business honestly wonderful. I've learned to lead my staff at the Gray, and I've grown from Mashama to being respected as a chef. The Gray has allowed me to be open and vulnerable with our staff and guests daily, spreading our mantra of a respectful work environment that honors our heritage, the land, and the people around us through food and drink. Within these years, I have found peace and refuge in that thought and also at the Gray. Scott Waldrop was one of our opening bartenders, and from the start, we knew that he was a star. Scott had been living and working in downtown restaurant community with his boyfriend Tart, who was also living and working in a downtown restaurant community for over 6 years. They have built many work relationships in this port city town of ours, and he then became our wine director and was recently promoted to be our general manager. Scott embodied the spirit at the Gray. He respected and admired Jono and I both, and we loved him deeply. On July 5th, just after midnight, Scott Waldrop and I were walking home from a bar on River Street in Savannah. We had just finished celebrating our nation's Independence Day by watching the fireworks on River Street, on the river. After the show, we listened to music and toasted to his favorite holiday at a honky-tonk bar with tipsy desires of riding a mechanical bull. But we just line danced instead. On our way home, we walked up to Bay Street, which is a main throughway through that drivers enter and exit our sleepy little town. The streets were crowded, people were talking and laughing. We were talking and laughing too while waiting for the light to change, to give us the right of way. When the light turned green, we stepped off the curb. As we crossed the street, I heard voices shouting, "Don't cross the street." Again, they screamed, "Don't cross the street, don't cross the street." I paused. Some people who looked dressed in uniform were running towards our direction. They knew something that we didn't. We didn't know that a few moments earlier, 3 young teenage boys were fleeing from the police after a shooting in the City Market area right around the corner. None of us in that intersection saw it coming. When I heard the voices, I think I stopped to hear what they were saying. They ran towards the intersection from our left, and an SUV full of the shooters was speeding from our right. Scott was standing right in front of me and was struck down. When the driver hit Scott, the SUV ran right into a lamppost, killing 2 of the 3 people inside of the car and injuring several others. I stood there in that moment knowing that my friend was dead. I can still feel the breeze of the SUV moving towards us. I can hear the sound of my friend's body crack in 2. I can see him as he was lifted into the air, and I never saw him again. I have been physically stuck in that night, and I have not been able to move my feet, and I don't even remember making it to the other side of Bay Street. I called his boyfriend Tart first. He was visiting family out of town and didn't answer. I left a message. I called a friend we left at the bar, and he was drunk and became hysterical, and in hindsight, I really fucked his night up, and it was a bad idea. Finally, I called my business partner's wife. They came to the scene to pick me up. But I never saw Scott's body after the accident. So I couldn't say that he was killed for sure. We didn't know for hours later until authorities contacted his mother, Terry, in North Carolina. Jono, Carol, and I sat in the wee hours of the morning after Scott's death, and we knew that we couldn't just open a restaurant, business as usual. We needed some time to absorb the shock of it all. We needed some time to accept this weird, fucked up reality. Jono and I called all our management staff one by one to tell them the news. Scott's mother and 2 sisters had confirmed their travel plans and would be in Savannah by the afternoon. We had reached Tart, and he was on his way home. It was late. Jono, Carol, and I had been awake all night, and still, in shock, we delivered this message. Many of our staff are far away from home and have developed a sense of family within the restaurant and with one another. The average age of our employees at the Gray is 30. They are young people who may not have experienced death, let alone a tragedy like this one in their whole lives. We needed to provide a safe place for our staff members to congregate and to process these recent events. We needed to provide a place for his family and his community. The Gray Restaurant became a place of refuge for all those who knew and was touched by Scott's life. It was standing room only in our 90-seat restaurant. Trays of food were coming in the door with flowers and notes attached. People from Savannah began walking in one by one with tear-filled eyes and their mouths full of kind words. Guests of the restaurant came to pay their respects. Local businesses offered grief counseling and free yoga and shoulders to cry on. Our Savannah community filled us with nourishment for our bodies and our souls. Terry's mother, was there too, and so was Tart. And I was able to tell them the truth about his passing and that he did not suffer, that he went into peace. He went in peace. Scott Waldrop was a firework. Filled with color and pride. The 4th of July was his favorite holiday. He had a love for American history and our nation's national parks. He had a wonderful singing voice that continues to irk me. As we walk, I can hear him walking in the kitchen singing, and it just drove me crazy. He was my person in and out of work, and I was in line with a lot of people who felt that way. I've been living in a fog. I've been on a conveyor belt standing still while moving through this white haze. But we, in that room, that day, became a refuge for each other, with tears and laughter and song together. It did not break us. We were whole standing together, if only for one moment. A moment long enough to say, cheers to Scott, and now we love you. Thank you.